didn't know who I was. I didn't know truth, morals, and I was pretty confused at the time. Darkness and evil entered into my life through pornography. It was the first kind of innocent stealer. I dove deeper into darkness. I lied more. I got into drugs in high school. Like I said, I've done a lot of drugs, and porn is easily the most addictive one. Hi, I'm Nick, and this is my story. Yeah, I just had a pretty normal life, and we weren't real involved with church, my family. I knew about this Jesus guy, and I knew about a creator. My parents were Christians. We just never really talked about it. And it was probably about the 4th grade that darkness and evil entered into my life through pornography. It was the first kind of innocent stealer, and it got me. The first time I saw pleasure and didn't understand it, and that was kind of the spiral into darkness. Fast forward to 6th grade, my parents get divorced, and the family is shattered. And my dad essentially left my mother for another woman. And so there's a lot of drama there, so I fell deeper into darkness, started lying. Just didn't know who I was. I didn't know truth. I didn't know morals. And I was pretty confused at the time. And it just got worse through high school. I hated myself. I dove deeper into darkness. I lied more. I got into drugs in high school. Just chasing after the things of the world. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew I loved pleasure and anarchy, honestly, and chaos. And so I just kept going. Eventually, senior year, I find myself selling drugs and using hard drugs, lying to everybody, even people I called my best friends, lying to them as well. I think that was one of my biggest regrets, was all the lies. I really didn't know who I was. Just disruption and dysfunction we had in our family from the divorce. I really made the agreement that I didn't want a wife or kids or a family. The devil told me that I bought into his lie. I don't want any of those things. I want to be selfish. And that was the theme of my life for a long time. And it was actually senior year, the big transitional moment. I didn't go to prom. I was selling drugs and getting drunk and high, and that night I would lie to my parents, since they never talked to each other, about whose house I was going to. So they never really knew where I was. And I snuck into my mom's house, I remember, and I couldn't sleep from all the drugs. And I start realizing all this stuff I'm doing is terrible. Remember that night, I was so drunk that I walked through a briar patch and just shredded my legs with thorns. I didn't realize it till I was high early in the morning, and I didn't know what to do. I was scared, and my legs were all cut up. I didn't want to go get my mom because I was very high on drugs, and I finally go get her, and she wasn't there. She didn't know I was there, so I just felt alone. And I felt more alone than just the feeling of my mom wasn't there. I felt alone in the world. I felt like God wasn't there. For the first time, I really wanted help. I wanted to be done with that life. And I didn't really know how to get out of it, but I know I had to stop. So the reason the alone feeling struck me so hard is I remember kind of an agreement I made the first night that my dad, he moved out of the house. I remember staring down my hallway and realizing it's up to me. I'm the man of the house now. And I made this hardening heart agreement that, you know what? Fine then, I'm alone. And I'm not gonna trust anybody. I'm not gonna need anybody. I really decided that day that if it was gonna be, it was up to me, and that pushed God as far away as I could from myself. And that's why that night I realized it was the way to death, and realized I didn't want that. I thought I wanted it for a long time. My buddy's family went to church, so we started going to Field Road Baptist Church in Arlington, Texas. The youth minister would keep on, just pray the prayer and be saved. And I had prayed that prayer before, and it didn't mean anything. I just said it. And one day, he was just like, let's go pray. He was discipling me for a while. I said, let's just go pray. I prayed that prayer, and I made that choice that day that Jesus is the way. He is the way, and that I'm not alone, that he's always with me. I remember sitting at the dock, fishing one day, reading Mark after making this decision, and I had the very strange sensation that I was not alone, and it was the first time I had that in a long time. And that's when I really knew Jesus was in my heart. That was the beginning of the new man. The only way I can describe it is it's the path to life, if you want real life. I talked about the agreement I made earlier about I don't want a wife or kids. I just want to be alone, and I don't want a family. I never even fathomed being a dad. So God's ironic in that. I got married at 20 years old, fall in love, and God ordained it perfectly. I have an amazing wife now. And then after we get married, a year later, we have our first child. Being a dad has been one of the most fulfilling things in my life, and God has followed me through that in so many ways. He shows me so many parallels with my children that I wouldn't understand if I didn't have them. I really do believe that evil tried to keep me from doing that. Satan did. The initial big sin for me was I was exposed to pornography, and it spiraled. It was the skeleton in the closet through all this. I just kept on hiding this, and I get married, and I think that it's just gonna magically go away. And no, it's still there. It was still there. It was hurting my relationship with my wife. I got around a good community of men to really help me, and that really showed me how much of a poser I was being, acting like everything's fine. There's a real Jesus out there who wants a real relationship with me and wants me to live every day. So I started slowly living like that. It's still a process, living every day for Jesus. But I do know the days that I put him first are some of the best days I have. Today I can gladly say that God's helped me win the battle over porn. This lady, Carol, comes up to me, and she's starting a ministry to raise awareness and combat human sex trafficking, and asked if I'll be a part of it, and I'd say yes. It's a very good cause to combat that evil. It's a great evil in this world. It's terrible. So we do some events, and I really feel life in that. I feel life in speaking to the youth and trying to help them to be advocates. I talk to them about how porn leads into trafficking and how it's way more addictive than you think it is. I really feel life helping the next generation. I had experienced God in a lot of ways, and I'd heard about people's visions. I'd heard about visions in the New Testament, in Acts, in the Bible, but I never really experienced it. Now I'm driving to my in-laws' house, and I've been driving for 30 minutes, and I stop at a red light and realize that I've been driving for 30 minutes because God's been showing me pretty much what my calling is, and it's to have a group home of kids. And I wasn't gonna be a dad. It was funny. That first month after I had that vision, man, I was ready to do it. I was ready to quit my job. and get out there and father some fatherless kids. And God showed me very quickly that I am small. I think that's been 3 years now, waiting on God, trusting Him, and learning how to father children through fathering my own 4 children. So now my days consist of just attempting to give my mind and my moments to God in His presence and dwell in Him. And I find that when I do those things, I'm slow to anger. Temptation doesn't have its hold over me. When I've spent my day with God, I feel full. My cup is full. There's a quote I like. When a man regains his heart and knows who he is, every day is an adventure. And we need adventure. It's life, and I think God's in the middle of that.